I think this is interesting. Not sure if this is going to work the way I'm hoping it will. Anyway, the whole concept here, this is going to be a budget hunting show. Um, the basis for it is really conversations that I've had with a couple of people over the years, and everybody says that hunting is only available to to those as a sport. It's actually not practical anymore. I have a YouTube that I don't use a whole lot anymore. It's called the Budget Off Road. It's based on the same concept. The average person had a $100,000 rig and was off roading, and then they wonder why other people can't get into it. And this is the basic concept of one of the things that we're going to review with this. One of the reasons people that struggle with hunting is they have too many firearms. And it drives the cost up, frankly. And so we're going to look at it with a single hunter, a single firearm hunter, and buying a quality one that will allow you to hunt, but also and be reliable, but also to keep the cost down somewhat. We're going to do evaluation. Is this hunt worthwhile? Is it actually pay off by the amount of money that I put into it, or not? And if it doesn't, we'll say no. This isn't a budget hunt. If it does, we'll say that it is. So as we get set up, as we're going into this really came out of a conversation though that I had with my nephew about 3 years ago, who was telling me that he really didn't eat meat much anymore. It wasn't that he was a vegetarian. It was that he couldn't afford most meats. Anything coming out of the store, he didn't want the chemicals coming out of it. And I suggested hunting. And he told me, well, hunting, it just costs so much relative to things. So we started talking about it and started talking about a real price comparison. And he took up hunting, and he's actually rather successful at it, probably more so than I am at this point. But it all came based out of that conversation. It's also going to build off of a blog that I had, maybe 18 years ago, that was also called The Budget Hunter. And it was based off the concept that you don't need an expensive firearm to go hunting. The truth is that if you get a good quality firearm, it will outlast you and your kids if you take care of it. So you only need to buy one. Unless you're going to be hunting in more than one state. Now, I do want to go over some of that. And this will be some of the speculation as we look at a firearm. I'm going to make my firearm as compliant as possible with as many states as possible. It is not entirely possible to do this completely because there are somewhat different regulations and different needs. There's about 7 states that have part or all of them that require straight wall cartridges. I live out west. I'm sorry. They just lack the range necessary for the hunting out here. So we're not going to make it compliant with those states. We are going to make it mostly compliant for all hunting up through elk and moose. There will be a single exception to that probably. I haven't decided 100% yet. And the exception will be Kentucky. Kentucky requires a 27 caliber or larger to elk hunt. Pennsylvania requires a 25 caliber. North Dakota and Nebraska, Pennsylvania requires a 26 caliber. North Dakota and Nebraska require a 25 caliber. It will be compliant with those states. There are about 17 states that have 24 caliber as the minimum requirement for deer as well. And so we will not be getting into a 22 caliber firearm. Not that I have a question about whether or not one of them could take deer, especially these modern ones that are using 103 grain or 108 grain bullets. 80 grain. That was the 106 millimeter. But it, we're going to take that into account. The other thing that we're going to take into account, and we're going to set the rifle up in this way, is that California requires the hunting with a monolithic bullet. Parts of Arizona, Oregon, Minnesota, and a couple of other states also require that. So we're going to set up based on that as our basic principle. I am not a big fan of monolithic bullets. My experience with them has been somewhat spotty, more so than a traditional cup and core bullet. However, because we're trying to set this up to be useful in as many states as possible, we are going to set it up, sight it in with a monolithic bullet. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to use a bolt action firearm. I have no qualms about using a semi-automatic firearm. I had been considering that as my next one. However, the state of Pennsylvania completely bans the use of them for hunting large game. There are several states where the owning and operating of them is highly regulated. And so just doing a bolt action gives us a wider variety of states wherein this firearm will be capable of being used. Now, some of you, particularly if you're very conservative, are going to be, well, who cares what California says, and who cares what Pennsylvania says, and things like that. And the truth is that maybe you do, maybe you don't. Doesn't matter. We're trying to set this up so that it will be compliant with as many states as possible. And that involves those states. There are hunts in California that I'd like to do someday. It's the only place in the world you can hunt Thule elk in their natural environment. They also have a couple of bison hunts. And I'm going to tell you up front that a bison hunt, if you can get it, particularly when you're doing it on your own without a guide, is always going to be a budget hunt. We'll get into why that is in another video. But this is going to be the basic concept of this. At some point, I'm probably going to change the name of it. I don't even know how it will pop up, from Jason to Budget Hunter. And that's going to quite simply be what this is about. This is a budget hunting site. We're going to look at hunting, but we're going to look at it from how do we do it on a budget to make it function as a way to put quality meat in the freezer for the family in a way that's not breaking the bank, in a way that I can't do it cheaper by just going over to the local farmer's market and buying that quality grass-fed, free-range organic meat. Because let's face it, that's what wild game is. It is grass-fed, free-range organic meat. I hope some of you will follow this. I hope that some of you will find this valuable. We're going to go through this. You feel free to put your opinions and things on it. I already have a plan for the firearms. I am going to tell you that while there are a number of quality firearms out there from all over the place, TVA, Sika, Bergara, Ruger, etc., I do emphasize in my own life buying as American as I can. So the firearm I get will be American made, which is going to rule out, for example, a Howa, a CVA, a Weatherby, the base model Weatherbys, and things like that. I also want something that's going to last and be reliable. And so probably won't be just a extreme budget gun. So we're going to take a look. I hope you'll follow along for the ride.